it filled my head with sounds of women crying and screaming. And if I'd ever met my mother, I'd have thought maybe that was her, but it was just unsettling. Hello, welcome back to our Percentile Vice. Thanks for joining us as we play the tabletop role-playing game Call of Cthulhu. We're working through the Blackwater Creek scenario. I'm Steve. I'm your keeper of arcane lore, and I'm joined by...
I'm Emily. I'll be playing Alice Green, the antiquarian, and...
I am John, playing Jackson Morris, cowboy bootlegger.
And I'll be in chat, so be sure to say hi.
So, when we finished up last week, Alice Green and Jackson Morris, after an eventful night at the Jarvey Farm, had made their way into town, met with Sheriff Sproston / Preacher Sproston, had an interesting encounter with some of the local youth, saw some interesting muddy water in a mason jar from them. The ever-dashing and daring Jackson Morris made a gallant attempt to scare off some bullies, but his attempts at a chase were thwarted and the bullies got away. You've made your way down out of the town after getting some supplies at Baxter's Goods, and are now at the dig site. Just pulled up, gotten out, and you've noticed that the area has been cleared away. There might be some little bit of vegetation that has started to come back there, but you could tell that it was a cleared area. And you noticed, Alice, that there were 3 filled-in trenches. You could tell they were filled in because the ground was a little higher there, like the dirt they filled it back in with had not packed down like everything else. And we're just starting to look at that when you were startled by a voice behind you. Hector Winnie saying hello and introducing himself and holding up a string of fish and wondering if you wanted to buy any. And as he was about to make his sale, or his pitch for the sale of some fish, he turned his head to Jackson Morris and said, "Wait a minute, I knows you. You used to come up here, didn't you? I'm Hector Winnie. I know we've met. I got that little fishing camp right down there by the river.
Yeah,
I've seen you pulling fish out the river all the time. As I recall, we was always friendly towards each other.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have any whiskey on you, would you?"
I don't believe I do at the moment, sir.
Well, if I could just... Look, I catch these fish. Sometimes I got game, maybe a squirrel or a deer if I'm lucky, but what I do is I catch these fish and I sells it to people so that I can get me some whiskey, because that's pretty much what my life is about. And I find myself a little short on the bottle right now, and I could really use a tug, if you know what I mean. So how would you like to buy this? Is really fresh fish. This is not the same string of fish I showed you yesterday when you drove by. I saw you. Remember? Did y'all see me? I was out there. I was going, "Hey!"
We saw you.
We saw you.
You didn't stop, though.
We were on a time-sensitive thing.
Well, sure would do a fella good if he had a little bit of whiskey money. And it's early in the day, but I got to start early because, well, I got to hike up the road a piece, because the only kind of whiskey anybody wants to sell you around here is some of them, that Comrie Brothers whiskey, and I just won't drink that.
Can I kind of turn my back? You know how when you want to talk to somebody, like, not so privately, I want to kind of turn my back to Hector and be like, "I'll buy some fish if he's got some information on the Carmody brothers, if you could just talk him up a little bit."
Is there any particular reason why you were refusing to partake in that Carmody whiskey?
Well, there's a very particular reason. I tried it one time, and it gets drunk, that's for sure. But I don't know. It filled my head with sounds of women crying and screaming. And if I'd ever met my mother, I'd have thought maybe that was her. But it was just unsettling. And I was like, I just want to get drunk. I don't need these auditory hallucinations. I know to look at me, you wouldn't think I know words like that. But, well, that's what you get for judging people. Auditory hallucinations and stuff. I just wants to be drunk. That was just downright scary. But everybody around here seems to be drinking it all up.
Well, has anything out of the norm been going on around the comedy place of late that you've noticed?
But I don't get much up there. Usually, if I wanted to buy some liquor, I just go down to Baxter's. But it seems like all he's selling now is that Carmody Brothers liquor. Sometimes if there weren't nobody watching, I might be able to talk Sheriff Sproston into let me have some, he had, kind of weird situation asking the law for some illegal liquor, but seems like that's all he wants to be drinking too. But I don't know, maybe he's got some other stuff now, but I'm trying to steer clear of him now. I was up at the church last Sunday. I woke up with a massive headache and not feeling well, and something told me maybe I ought to just act right, and I'm gonna go to church, and then I will be better, and I'll do things better. Maybe all this drinking will leave me and stuff. So I went to church, but heck, he ain't talking about God no more. He's in there whipping up his congregation in a frenzy about the mother in the hills, the mother in all of us. It seemed like no church I'd ever been to before, and about that time my head was really cracking, and I just kind of slipped out the back, found me some whiskey, and well, that's the way I spent my Sunday. And I imagine God looked unfavorably on me for that, getting up to say I was going to turn my life towards him, and instead I walked out of church and got drunk. But yeah, he'll forgive a sinner.
He sure will.
Y'all want to buy some of this fish? Because I could really use some whiskey.
Sure. How much you want for him?
Well, I tell you what, if it's just you could buy this whole stringer for $1.
So I'm going to reach into my bag and pull out my wallet, and I'm going to pull out like a $5 bill, but I'm just going to kind of hold it and talk to him.
His eyes get big.
Yeah.
There's a lot of drunk in that $5 bill.
So I'm just going to kind of hold it, and how you talk with something in your hands, kind of use it to direct. I'm just going to kind of. So Hector, you say you stay up this way, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So you've been
right down there. See, down near the dry creek bed.
I do.
If you take that down to where the river is, just off to the side there's my little shack. That's where I stay.
Okay. So a couple months back, there would have been some people doing some digging over here. Did you see them come around?
That would have been the professor. Professor Street, Professor Rhodes. That was it, Professor Rhodes. And his fine, upstanding lady, his wife, which she couldn't describe her no other way than she was a lady, right and proper.
Correct.
Didn't you say her name was Abigail or something?
I believe it was Abigail or Edith, one of them two.
Well, Miss Rhodes and Mr. Rhodes, when they were over here digging, did they have any problems? Did they have, any concerns? Anything go wrong? I heard a lot about the Carmody brothers coming and hassling them. Do you know anything about that?
I didn't see none of that. I was in the Baxter store the day that Professor Rhodes picked up his case of dynamite. And later heard a blast up in the hill, up there in the Sick-Hills, just north of here, past the woods and up in there. Figured for some archaeological reasons he was going out, moving some earth around. Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Before that, had you noticed any difference in the Carmody shine? Or is that something that happened after he went doing archaeological things up there?
Well, so now that was back into summer. It was June, July time frame. And it's just been a couple of weeks ago that I noticed the shine was shining different.
Okay.
When the Rhodes and their crew left out of here, did they have any problems leaving? I know that the students headed back, but what about Mr. and Mrs. Rhodes?
Oh, they stuck around for a little bit. They made themselves a little camp up. Well, so here's the dig site. But if you take this road like you're going to Dunwich, and right about the time the trees of this Blackwood, as soon as that ends, there you'll see a little trail. You follow that up, and it's going to curve around the woods, kind of follows on the outside edge of it. And right up there on the northwest corner of the woods, they had themselves a little campsite set up. I noticed it one day when I was out trying to get some squirrels because the fish weren't biting.
Okay. Well, I'm happy to buy your fish from you, young man.
And it's been about 40 years since anybody called me a young man, but I believe you're just trying to get on my good side. Not much more than a string of fish I got to sell, ma'am, and you're waving that $5 bill around, and well, we'll be right to say y'all those fish are $5, and if you're looking for change, I ain't the kind of guy that got it.
Oh, no, certainly not. Here, and I'll pull out a dollar bill and hand it to him, and then I'll kind of nudge Jackson and kind of point at the fish because I have no intention of grabbing the fish.
I'll reach out and
as you're putting the $5 bill away, but now we could, maybe work out some kind of futures consideration. Like I don't know, maybe you gave me $1 today for fish tomorrow, and then I'd be beholden it kind of like a contract now. Because $2 would buy twice as much whiskey as $1. I wouldn't do. I wouldn't even try to get the $5 out of you, but maybe one more dollar, ma'am.
How about this? I can give you the $5, but I need you to lead us up when we need to go up to where the blast site was.
Oh, well, I mean, I'd just be guessing like everybody else because I wasn't there when it happened. I get you towards the right direction.
The right direction is all I'm asking. But you be our guide when it comes that time.
Ma'am, if you ever need me to show you about anywhere around these parts, then that is what I owe you for $4.
Yes, sir. So I'll put back the 1 and hand him the 5. All right, Hector. You stay around this area, and when I come looking for you, I expect to find you.
It ain't never real hard to find Hector. Just trying to find Hector when he can stand up is a little difficult sometimes. You know what I mean? But I'm usually pretty good about waiting till later in the day to get just, rip roaring.
Okay. Thank you, Hector.
As long as we're talking morning time, but not too early morning time because I have to have a recovery period. But yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Now, if you stay around here, would you happen to know who filled all this back up?
That's standard practice when they do digs. You don't just leave it open. You fill it back in so that it doesn't disturb the natural terrain.
So you surmise they were pretty much done with this dig here?
For this area, yes. There may be other areas that they were digging that may or may not have been finished, but this area looks like they've cleared out, and it's just polite for the locals to put everything back as best you found it.
All right, well, it sounds like y'all got that figured out, or if I can catch you over Joe before he gets too far.
Go ahead, Hector.
Thank you, ma'am. Remember, I'm at your service if you ever need to be showed around here, and I can always do more fish.
All right. Well, he seems quaint.
He definitely has his priorities in order.
Well, it's hard to fault him for it. So, I guess we could... I don't really know where to go from here, Jackson. We could head up to the campsite, or we could try to check in. I mean, I feel like a lot of things are revolving around these Carmody brothers.
So, give me an archaeology roll.
Archaeology? That's a thing I can roll. Hold on. Archaeology. roll that. Hard success with a 16.
Okay, so so as you're explaining to them that it's standard practice or whatever to fill back in the trenches and everything, and you're pointing down to the trenches and doing gesturing and whatnot, you notice that these trenches seem to have been filled in very quickly, with little regard for preserving the site or the artifacts within it. So as you're explaining it's standard practice, you look down and there's nothing standard about the way they do it. Little red flags.
So I'm going to walk over and kind of kick it with the point of my boot, my lady's boot, and be like, but I have to say, this is a pretty poor job. And I'm going to kind of kick some of the dirt around, I'm like, this is not at all how you should leave a proper site. It really looks like, they just paid anybody, just toss some dirt over it. It's not quite right.
So as you kick a little bit of dirt, your foot hits something kind of hard, whereas everything else was very soft, unpacked dirt.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of kneel down and kind of try to brush away.
Sticking out of the dirt, you see the end of a bone.
Okay. And with my training in archaeology, I'm going to stop and pull my hands away and stand back up. Like, okay. Does it look to me like it's
As you take a closer look,
yeah,
you notice that, okay, so not only is this bone here, you'd have to probably dig it out to make any other conclusions about it at this point. It's darkened, could be just the black soil, but you also notice there's little shards of pottery, and if you were on a dig, you would have been like, whoa, this is something, and it's all just been piled in here.
So would it lead me to believe it looks more like, given that it's kind of shallow, that it looks like they may have unearthed these things further down and then kind of toss them back into the holes towards the end?
That's a reasonable explanation. Give me a luck roll.
Luck. A success at a 39.
All right, laying off to the side in the grass, mostly obscured by the grass that is now starting to grow up on the edge of this site. You catch a glimmer of steel and notice that there's a shovel over there.
So, Jackson, what?
Abandoned.
I seem to have been incorrect. It looks as though they unearthed the artifacts and then for some reason put them back, but kind of just dumped them into holes and they're very shallow buried. I mean, they even left their tools out. Something happened that caused them to so hastily put everything away.
I wouldn't assume they did it.
I mean, that's true. I just don't know. Anybody who would have come to the dig site would have either been coming to take the artifacts for monetary gain. I don't see the point in burying them again, That doesn't quite make sense to me, but I suppose I don't have any proof to say it was the...
Didn't you say that somebody had told you the Carmodys had threatened the people at the dig site?
Yes, I was told that.
If you're covering up a crime, what do? You
remove all evidence from sight. Well, I don't know that we should dig it up any further, because without the proper tools and the setup and everything like that, we could damage the actual artifacts. And I'm concerned about, the well-being of those priceless artifacts. So I'm just not really sure what to do with it, except for maybe try to rope it off and try to keep people from coming over this way.
It don't seem like there's too many people on their way over here. I don't think roping it off would be too prudent. We might want to just go check out that whatever it is in the hills and see what we can find out there.
Do you mean go to their camp or go up to the blast site?
In the hills. We keep hearing about the hills. We can check out the camp on the way there, but...
Well, we would need to go grab Hector. And he went to go get whiskey.
Well, let's check out the campsite.
All right, so we'll maybe get back in the truck and head to the campsite. So it's a little up the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you get in your truck and you start heading down the road that would take you into Dunwich, and sure as Hector told you, there's a little turnoff to a dirt track that runs along the edge of the woods. And as you start to come around the little corner, both of y'all give me a spot hidden roll.
Spot hidden. Hey, look, my first success at spot hidden.
Look at you.
Hard success.
I missed it.
All right, so Jackson, you're driving the truck. Again, these tracks leave a lot to be desired, so it's taking a lot of your concentration and effort to keep the vehicle on the track. And you notice, Miss Green, that the grass in this area has grown up quite a bit, and you just make out in the long tall grass the shell of a truck, and maybe like one pole sticking up with like
a
a
lean-to tent.
collapsed tent on it, just off the road.
So I'll reach over Jackson, right there, and ask him, "Can you pull over? That looks like it's it right there."
All right, I'll pull over.
So getting out of the truck, I want to take a look, kind of walk around and see what I can see before I get in.
All right, so there is the truck and two collapsed tents. The truck is burned out. Somebody set fire to this truck.
Okay.
The inside the cab, the bench seat is nothing but wires and springs now. So it is just a burnt out hull of a truck. The tents are torn and tattered. There's two of them. Maybe one of them still has one of the two end poles sticking up, and the other one is completely down. In the back of the truck, there's the scorched remains of some tools. If you're making an archaeology roll.
Yeah. Success, 53.
Yeah, so they are the types of tools you would expect to see at a dig site, like small little trowel shovels and little brushes, and then
Picks.
larger stuff for even big pieces of earth, and then the more delicate work. It's all there, but they're all scorched. It's most of the brushes are just charred wooden handle, and then a metal piece, and then where
Right.
it would have held horsehair or something, type of brushes. There are some personal belongings scattered throughout the area, clothes, a book here or there. So it looks like the campsite was the site of some kind of scuffle that eventually ended up with
A fire.
a truck burnt.
Okay.
And the two tents, they're torn and tattered, but they're still tents. So you could look inside them. And one of them, you could crawl inside of the other one. If you want to go crawl inside, you kind of have to re-support the tent stakes.
So I'll probably find a stick nearby and kind of try to pick up the flaps and like peek into the one that's kind of half standing. See if I can see anything in it.
Sure. You immediately notice dried and spattered blood
Wait.
inside the tent. There's also some textbooks and notes, that kind of thing that you'd expect from a scholarly person. But yeah, blood splattered on the inside of this. This tin is dried to brown, but it's covering the top and in the sides.
Jackson, take a look at this.
All right.
There's a massive amount of blood loss in this tent.
Yep, I'd imagine whatever was here is not anymore.
Oh.
Not alive soon.
I understood. Would you like to help me check out the collapsed tent? We're gonna need to kind of hold it up so somebody can look inside.
Sure.
All right, so as you guys move over to check out the collapsed tent, both of you give me a biology, botany, or natural world roll. Any of those that is good is best for you.
Nope.
Nope. 55 failure.
Okay. So based on the how tall the grass is around here, you know it's been a minute since this happened. But you really can't tell if it's been weeks or months since this happened based on those crappy rolls.
Exactly.
Can I look at some tracks to see if I can find tracks on the ground?
Sure.
Using track?
Yeah.
Can tell the age of how old tracks are.
No, I can't. That was a
No.
pretty
I mean,
bad failure.
you could spend
21, 26 left. A lot.
Uh-uh.
a lot of luck points.
I'm going to keep them 31 luck points to myself.
You could also push the roll. Try again. So we have to remember that anytime you make a skill roll, you could push the roll, in which case you have to explain to the keeper what extra thing you're doing, what slightly different approach you're taking that gives you another shot at this, a better shot at this. And then you could make the roll. However, the keeper is going to tell you that if you fail the push roll, that perhaps the consequences of a failed roll are different or worse. Also of note is if you decide to push roll, you can never use luck to buy down a push roll to success.
Right.
I can tell you here, John, the only penalty, if you will, for failing a push roll is time. You spent more time trying to find traction and figuring it out.
All right, I'll stand up on the truck and see if maybe a higher view.
So standing up and being able to get a downward look at a larger area of the thing, I like it. So give me the push.
Even worse.
As you get further away, it's harder and harder to make out the details. So there are places in here where you think there might be tracks, but you can't tell if they were footprints, boot prints, just natural depressions in the ground. And the amount that the grass has grown up is probably obscured it to the point where you can, if you'd been here a few weeks or months earlier, you probably would have been able to do something. But
While I'm back at the truck, before I go help her with the tent.
by the way, just as a point of curiosity, was it your truck you were standing on or the burnout truck you were standing on?
Mine.
I was gonna say, we really bad choice to stand on the burnout truck.
I'm going to use the springs, the exposed springs, to hop up in the air and get a bird's. Sorry.
It's okay.
Where's the jump skill? Roll it.
Make a dexterity roll on a failure, take 1d6.
You're
Falling's usually only like 1d3, but there's a chance that spring's going
got
to.
a little more kick to it than you thought.
Well, you might land on the spring in
Oh.
weird and chiggerish ways.
While I'm back at the truck.
Yeah.
I want to take the string of fish and examine it, specifically looking for the kind of pustules that we've been seeing on the kids and
Smart move.
animals.
That's good. Give me a spot hidden, nature, or investigate. Is investigate one of the skills?
No.
I don't think so. I think I'm thinking of that other game.
That other game that shall not be mentioned.
I will listen to any argument or any suggestion of a good skill, but I'm thinking something in the nature or spot hidden.
My best is going to be spot hidden.
Okay.
Hard success.
Hard success. So you examine each of these fish very carefully, and based on the things you've seen, you're paying particular attention to, like around the gill area, around the mouth. You even open it up and kind of look down into the throat of the fish, and these fish all appear not only very fresh, but pristine. There is no indication that if these fish were pulled out of the miskatonic, which is that there is any of this infection at that point. They look
Seems
good.
kind of odd because that water them boys had, I'm guessing whatever it is coming from that new creek and not the miskatonic. Anyhow, I better go help her with that tent.
Yeah, and the kids told you that they got the water at
Pre-dam.
a new dam that had been built north of the woods, so which would have been much farther away than even the kids were to the miskatonic.
Okay.
I like how you just narrated to yourself. I guess I better go help her.
Damn it.
And I'm just like probably like 10 feet from you. Like, does he think I can't hear yet? I'm checking for fever later.
Well, the thing about Jackson Morris, he is the protagonist of his own story.
He's something. Anywho's. All right,
So
if you're
just
done.
for purposes of orienting ourselves and maybe even our viewers, so here's the picture of the hand-drawn map that the students provided to Rick Stevens, private investigator.
Yeah.
Check
him out on
that
Twitter.
he then sent to you when he asked you to help him out with this case. So the crossroads there, the big, large, wide line at the very bottom of the handout represents the Miskatonic River.
Mm-hmm.
And those little Christmas trees type things represent, of course, the wood. And then the vertical broad line represents the dried creek bed. So the kids told you about a dam north of the woods, and that's where that water was at. So if there's water up there, it hasn't made its way down to empty and feed into the Miskatonic River. Okay.
So, Jackson, if you're done checking out on the fish, I really would like some help with this other tent, please.
Fish look good, so we might be eating all right tonight.
By the way, brilliant investigation and brilliant role playing there to check the fish out.
Inspiration. Oh, wait.
If that was the thing, I would do it. Because that was really good. Because you get to kind of
We should have a house.
conceptualize the scope of this crap that's happening. Right?
Yeah.
So you know whatever it is hasn't made it to the Miskatonic. So that was really good. Are you guys remembering to put tick marks by successful
Yes.
uses of your skills?
God,
I remembered. We should have like a house rule, like instead of inspiration, call it something else, and you get like a free bonus die to use at some point.
Yeah, I think I will think about that. And
Think
I
about
think
it.
I'll also look in some of the optional rules section in
Yeah,
the
might be
Keeper's
something.
Handbook, see if they cover something like that.
It's just always nice to reward like good,
Yeah, that was
solid
really,
plays.
really good thinking there, Jackson. So, meanwhile, back at the camp. Sorry for that aside.
you're
but I
fine.
thought that was really good. Didn't y'all think that was good?
2 thumbs up. So I'm gonna start trying to hoist up the tent as he comes over to try to help me.
And I'll
So-
do as much as I can to help her get into it.
So in the collapsed tent, more of the same, no blood in this one, but there are some notebooks, clothes. They've all been disheveled, right?
Right.
You'd think if like just the wind and the weather it collapses, that inside the tent, maybe the clothes would all be stacked over here and the books would all be stacked over here,
But it's
but they're
more-
tossed all the way around. Probably like the tent had been searched.
If I'd had my switchblade that I dropped outside, I would have just filleted that thing open and just spread it out. Thank you for helping me with that.
You mean this one? And I'll hand her back her switchblade.
Thank you. I've been trying to find ways to remember to get my switchblade from you. Because
I had no reason to think it was yours, so I was just going to keep it.
I asked you to help me find it the next morning. You knew. You just forgot.
That.
Player forgot. Character remembered. You were just being an ass. So, and all the books and papers and stuff like that, they just look like notes on the actual dig site. It doesn't look like personal journals or anything. Can I investigate those further?
Yeah, so give me a spot hidden roll.
A failure. A big, big failure. 86.
Okay, so in this tent, it just appears to be notes about setting up a quadrant system for the trenches and how you're going to go about digging it, and then some textbooks and stuff like that. Would you like to try the same thing in the other tent one with the blood?
I would. I would like to try it.
Give him
hard success, 17. Yeah, I've been thinking about my switchblade for a minute. Because I heard you picking it up. And then I was like, okay, give it back to me. And then you never did. I was like, wait, how do I get my switchblade back?
So as you're looking through it, you find the journal of Dr. Henry Rhodes.
Oh.
Professor Henry Rhodes. Not sure if he can make doctorate yet. And in there are a couple notable things. You find some notes from some research that he had done. He had taken some notes from a book called Indian Tribes of the Northeast by Nathaniel Chapman. That should now be visible to everybody on our Roll 20 handout section. So if you'd like to, you can read or summarize that.
Yeah, I can read it for us real quick. Of the peoples of the Miskatonic Valley, the most mysterious and feared was the CoC tribe, known to the white settlers as the Children of the Black Earth. They have not been seen since colonial days, but stories of them still live on in folklore. While some of the stories of the CoC no doubt have their basis in fact, many have doubtless been embellished by the passage of time or tainted by native superstition. The assertion that the tribe would conduct raids and take captives who they would then offer up as sacrifices to their great spirits is richly plausible. While human sacrifice among the Indian peoples is a rarity, the evil reputation and reported depravity of the CoC was the cause of their shunning by all neighboring tribes, and these tales of murder simply form part of this tapestry. Their ferocity and bloodlust is also the most likely root of the reputation of their warriors as never dying on the battlefield and being immune to all mortal weapons. Where their legend becomes pure fancy is in the detail of the tribe being ruled by an undying council of elders who were never seen outside their sacred cave. The elders were spoken of as wise and terrible, with great magic and gifts of healing. Similarly fantastic is the description of the tribe as brothers to snakes and to the vermin of the field. No stories or legends survive to explain the disappearance of the tribe, but the most likely explanations remain that they were either exterminated by either their neighbors or colonial settlers, or that exposure to civilizing influences led to their acceptance and absorption into the larger tribes of the valley. Ooh, that was a mouthful.
It was, and you got another one, because he had also taken notes from a book called Myths and Legends of Old Massachusetts by Oliver Stansfield, and you find excerpts from that book among Professor Rhodes'
Let me take off my fake glasses so I can see with my already bad eyesight.
He wrote character.
I'm sorry. One less sinister and undoubtedly less puzzling mystery of the Miskatonic Valley is the fate of the settlement known as Cade's Rest. Historical records show that following the hanging of Mary Dyer on Boston Common in 1660, a group of Quakers left Boston fearing persecution at the hands of the Puritans. This group was led by the tailor Ezekiel Cade and included as many as 10 other families. After some months of travel, they settled by the banks of the Miskatonic River, not far from the spot that would one day become Dunwich. While records from this point are scant, the folk story holds that the settlement thrived once Cade and his followers made contact with the local Indian tribe known as the People of the Black Earth. Where the tale turns to folklore is the demise of the settlement. Some stories have the earth opening and swallowing the settlers whole, others tell of them being snatched away by the devil himself. Even the more mundane details are contradictory, with some describing the discovery of empty homes on the site and others saying that even the buildings had vanished. Given that there are mentions of Cade being spotted in Boston a few years later, the most likely explanation is that the settlers simply moved again, possibly spreading the rumors of their disappearance themselves to secure their privacy. Alternatively, they may have come into conflict with the Black Earth tribe and been killed. Regardless of the truth, the legend is a minor one at best. Whew. Okay. Now I can put my fake glasses back on. So, I'm gonna have read all of that out loud to Mr. Jackson here. Yeah, that's what they were here digging, as they were looking for, evidence of Cade's rest, the settlement. Judging by some of the things we found back at the dig site, it looks like they may have found some remnants of a settlement. Whether it was Cade's restaurant would be determined by the actual items themselves, but they did find something.
Yeah, it looks like something found them too.
It does. It's very concerning. What concerns me is that, we've heard of the Carmody brothers causing trouble outside of this area and with this group as well, and it feels like there's a lot of things pointing towards those Carmody brothers. And feels like we've talked to everybody about them and not actually spoken to them. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying, but we still have stuff to explore out here.
Yes, I know. I'm just talking out loud. So, is there any other parts of this campsite that we haven't looked at, or have we looked at all the major parts of it? Is there anything?
You've looked at the truck, you've looked at the two tents, and you've looked at the grounds around it. And yeah.
Okay.
You've done a pretty good job. I'm interested though, Jackson, when Miss Green was reading the first excerpt, what went through your mind? What did you think when she read the part that said the Sikyuk Indians or their warriors were known as brothers to snakes and vermin? Did that trigger any thoughts of you?
It's kind of reminiscent of the guy I saw out in the fields with the various bugs and whatnot crawling all over him and being chased by rats and rodents the past few days.
Yeah, and so just for clarity's sake, you didn't see a guy covered in vermin.
That was Malcolm Jarvey.
Malcolm Jarvey told you he had seen one of the Carmody brothers come out of his fields, and he was covered in rats, snakes, vermin, just crawling all over him, insects, that kind of thing. Okay, so as you guys wrap it up here, are you heading back to your truck? What are you going to do?
I think we need to go up in the hills.
Okay.
I think we need to know what the Carmodys are working with before we go try to confront them, because going down there and they may have something we need to know about before we get there.
All right, so as you start talking about going up to the hills, right, so you turn and you look to the north, and you can see that not too far off, the land starts to rise. And as you take a look around, both of you give me spot hidden rolls.
Failure. Big old failure.
Extreme success.
Ooh.
So as you do that, then Jackson, you see only about a quarter of a mile to the east, you can see the telltale sign of light, sunlight glimmering off water. As the water ripples and the sun catches it a couple of different ways, and you see the little play of light there. Quarter mile to the east, you can see that.
We may not even need Hector. I'm pretty sure I can tell where the water is right now, and if we get to the water, the dam's got to be close by.
Yeah, that's fine. I can't really see that far up there. Can we drive up there, or are we going to have to walk?
It's a quarter mile. The track doesn't head that way, but the land is relatively flat. until it starts getting up into the hills there. But it is tall grass, and then it's the edge of the woods there too. So
Would my drive auto skill tell me if this was drivable?
sure, give me a drive auto skill. I like that.
It wouldn't, apparently, because I got a big 90.
So
You
if
are
you
sure
look out over it, you're like, I think it's pretty flat, but with this grass growing the way it is, I would have a hard time spotting large holes that might break an axle or whatever. So you'd figure it'd be some risk to driving the car up there.
Ms. Green, I reckon we might just want to walk this out. I can't see through the grass enough to know whether or not this is going to rattle our car to death.
That's fine. Just let me go to the truck and get myself ready. So I'm gonna go put my bag down, grab my rifle, and a few things just in a little travel satchel. Not all of my books and nonsense. Just
I'll make sure I have my shotgun and flashlight.
Okay. So you guys started this day pretty early from the Carmody farm. You went and you talked to Sheriff Sprouston and the kids and got to the dig site, spent some time there. You got up here to the campsite, spent some extra time because Jackson just seemed intent on being able to find some tracks, and for maybe an hour he was searching around for it to the point where he maybe even started reading a book. So we're going to say it's probably only around 11:30, noonish time, but you've got your flashlight, you both have your weapons and small personal effects on you, but bigger things like books and your bags with your clothes and stuff like that you left in the truck.
Yeah.
Okay. So you walk about a quarter mile east. The woods are on the south of you, right? So it's like woods, flat land, and you're walking east. You also probably know that if you kept walking east for a mile or two, you would probably run into the Carmody farm, right? Just based on the sketched out map that you have, the fact that you guys have already been over to the Jarvey Farm and the Carmody farm, and then you drove south and then back west to the town, and then you turned north to go up to the side. Now you're walking. You've almost made a complete circle. That east of here is the Carmody farm, and then the Jarvey farm. But after about a quarter of a mile, you come up to the Blackwater Creek, and it's actually a creek here. But what you notice is right north of the woods that a dam has been erected, and irrigation ditches have been dug heading towards the Carmody farm. As if somebody has diverted this water for irrigation out to their fields. You also notice that there's a little bit of seepage of water around the dam, and it's made its way into the woods. But the creek bed just south of the dam is still pretty dry, though there might be a like in the very center of it, a kind of a muddy area, but no standing water or running water. It's like mostly dry till you get to the very center, maybe an inch or two of wide of some moist area. But most of the water is being diverted. The dam stops it and is being diverted to the east towards the Carmody farm. And if you look north, this creek is coming down from the north, and it appears to originate somewhere in the hills above.
the dam. Does it look like a professional job, or does it look more like a slapped up kind of deal?
It's a slapped up kind of deal. Logs, twigs, wood, mud packed around.
Okay.
This is not a Army Corps of Engineers. This is more like beavers with opposable thumbs, right?
Huh.
Somebody came out here and constructed this dam out of whatever materials were available, and it's patched together and spackled with mud. And
Okay.
is by no means probably what came to your mind when you heard the word dam. It's more like a pile of debris and wood that is stopping the majority of the water, and then the irrigation ditches.
Okay.
I'm going to make an attempt to find or catch a small bug.
This is no time for catching butterflies, Jackson.
So, as you start looking down around the ground for a small bug, you notice that there are little white flecks, silvery white flecks twitching in the current. And as you look closer at the dam, you notice that there is a pool, right? So the creek comes down and it pools up right at the dam. Most of the water goes out through the irrigation ditch. Some of it is seeping around the dam and into the woods. But there's probably a 10-foot diameter pool that has been created, and there are more of those white, silvery, wriggling flecks in that water. The water is dark, and it might have one of those like that multicolored kind of shimmering on it, like when there's like a little bit of oil
Like
on top of water.
Yeah. I'd still like to find a bug.
Okay. Give me a spot hidden.
I'll push my failure of spot hidden.
Okay. The only effect will be time.
Okay.
Oh, you found the best bug.
You turn over a stone, and wriggling underneath there is a couple of earthworms, maybe
Salamander.
yeah, I was thinking roly-poly, but then it realized that different parts of the world call those bugs different things.
Pill bug.
A pill bug.
But we all know they're roly-polies.
They're roly-polies.
I don't care what anybody says. You're wrong if you say it's something else.
So you find a couple of them. So had a hard time finding any. You took a little more time, and then boom, pay dirt. Literally.
Grab an earthworm and toss it in and see what happens.
So you toss the earthworm into the water, and then a bunch of those shimmering flecks just attach themselves to it, and then there's some churning in the water, and then just scatter, and there's no trace of that earthworm anymore.
All right, Miss Alice, you want to go up in the hills and check that out?
Miss Alice wants to make me a spot hidden roll. So he threw the worm in the water, kind of where the creek proper gets down to where the big, not big, but the pool is, right? And as you're standing beside him, you notice out of the corner of your eye,
with extreme success,
right? You notice something large and pale moving through the water. Yeah, I say large. You've been looking at these itty bitty specks, and now all of a sudden there's this blob, maybe a foot long and 8 or 9 inches wide, moving through the water. And just as you catch it in the corner of your eyes, you turn to look at it, you see a frog going through the water, and then this blob just kind of overtakes the frog, and then the frog disappears. And after that, this big mass just gets closer and closer to the shore, and then slithers up onto the land. It's large and flat and shapeless jelly.
While this is happening, I'm like, without breaking eye contact, like reaching over and Jackson. And I'm not going to break eye, but I'm going to be trying to get his attention.
So it is at the shore of this pond, this pool, down near. It's on your side.
Right.
It's a few feet away from you. It didn't like come right up at your feet, but it comes right up there onto the water.
Is it like
onto the shore?
Is it lizard-like?
No, it is
Fish-like?
It is large, flat, shapeless, and jelly-like.
It's a snot goblin.
It's exactly what it is.
Like a supersized oyster.
Gross.
That is probably the most accurate description.
Oysters have the worst. Oysters are snot goblins, so I was right as well.
Goblins are real, I heard.
They are real. Donkey proved it. Scientist of the ages. But this thing is obviously not bothered by the little flecks. And it's a little snot blob coming out of the water, which is gross.
I don't seem to have any biology or botany skills on my sheet.
I'll
so,
have natural world. You would have had to take a science and add it in there. It's like a specialization you have to add when you're doing character mix.
Could I do survival or occult?
I think he was going to tell us more about the thing.
Oh, okay. You're going to tell us more.
No, there's a shapeless mass. It has crawled up onto the shore, and it is kind of oozing its way along the shore, maybe even coming towards you.
Picking up
Moving very slow. And again, it's only about a foot long, about 8 or 9 inches wide. And on the shore, it is probably flattened out to maybe an inch or two. In the water, it seemed to be thicker, but on the ground, its jelliness just kind of
splats out. Yeah, I'm just going to kind of maneuver my way behind Jackson and kind of be looking around his shoulder. Jackson, what is that?
I don't know, ma'am. I'm gonna look a little closer at it and see if maybe my survival knowledge or occult knowledge tells me something.
Give me a survival roll if you'd like.
It's a failure, so probably not.
What about natural world?
Natural world is worse for me.
Well, I meant...
Go ahead, give me a natural roll.
No, failure.
Neither of you have seen anything like this before, with the exception of, if you could imagine, an oyster that suddenly came to life.
Football-sized oyster.
I'm gonna go grab a stick.
Poke it. What are you, 12?
Okay.
Once I have a stick that seems like it's got a little bit of spring to it, not too much, but obviously isn't dry rotting quite yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, you found a decent
Okay. Go try to get up under it and kind of
Pancake flip it.
not flip it so much as leverage it back into the water.
Okay, so this blobby, oily, slimy, jelly-like mass, when you stick your stick under it and start to push up with alarming speed, it scurries up the stick to your arm. This weird blob of life form had come up out of the pool near the dam. Jackson had decided to kind of poke at it with the stick, and it quickly started moving up the stick. The color, this thing is the color of like dead skin, and it smells of decaying flesh and rotting peaches, that fruity, sickly.
Kind of like when you get your ear pierced and like there's some funk on the stud. No? Nobody?
I will go smelling my studs of my earring.
I guess that's a dude thing.
And it's been like 20 years since I had my ears pierced.
And this blob, this shapeless mass, has just scurried up the post. It is attempting to attach itself to your hand.
You can hear it.
We are in combat. What are your dexterities, please?
51.
62.
I can hear it slurring up things. Like, You had to poke it.
Of course I had to poke it.
Nasty.
Supposed to be investigating, not... Oh, that's a nice giant oyster there. I'm just going to leave it.
Okay, so this was a bit of a surprise. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to give me a spot hidden or natural world check, Jackson. If you succeed on this, then it was not a surprise to you. If you don't, then essentially this was a surprise attack by this shapeless mass, and he will have a round thumbs up, and then we'll go into dexterity order.
This is the point where if we weren't using Roll20 to roll so that the rolls were coming up in chat, me and my dice will be having a nice little conversation right now. So I'm just going to lean over for a second, and I'm going to talk to my
electronic dice. Yeah. We deal with this on a daily basis.
Yeah.
You can stand.
Okay, I think me and Intel are good. We are.
All right. So as this thing scurries up, you realize what's happening right away. So we are in combat. Jackson, you have the highest dexterity, so you're going to go first. What would you like to do? And I'm going to tell you that it is at the point where it is starting to get onto your hand.
I am going to attempt to throw the stick.
Okay. Make a throw roll.
He's whispering to his Intel processor again. It did not like it.
Okay, so you can push the roll if you'd like, which would mean you really having to just make some jerky motions with your hand. So basically it has started to get onto your hand. Your hand is holding the stick, which part of it is on too, right? So you could make this little foot move and you realize that the stick's not leaving. So you can push this roll by trying more violently to do it. The potential damage of that is that if you're unsuccessful, maybe this shapeless mass goes flying onto your partner, or it comes off your hand and hits your body, or something like that. Or you could spend 50 luck points.
I don't have it.
Would you like to push the roll?
No.
No.
Okay. So that's your turn in combat, which then makes it the shapeless mass's turn. And on its turn, it's going to move farther up, and it starts to envelop your arm with its sickly gray dead skin color, and starts to make for our purposes, a fighting maneuver, which is grab. It's trying to grab on to envelop itself around you. Now, this is going to be a fighting maneuver. So let me just double check the fighting maneuver rules. What is your build?
0. It's if you look on
That's true.
combat, it's 0.
Okay. So based on the fact that its build is less than yours, it's going to have a penalty dice. You have the choice of either trying to dodge or fight back. So in this case, dodge would be like trying to get your arm out of the way. Fighting back would be punching it, stabbing it, something like that. It's going to make its brawl attack to do the grab. You can make either your dodge or your fight back roll. Which one would you like to do?
The fight back roll would be a brawl.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to try to dodge. I'm going to try to finagle my arm out of this thing.
All right, so you will make your dodge roll. He will make it will make its attack roll, and we will compare the levels of success of the two.
Yay. That's a big old failure at an 89.
Luckily, it's contested. It could do worse.
Right? And
Not
it has,
but
it does have a penalty dice. So it also failed. So you weren't able to get your hand out of it, but moving around in the way that you have has kept it from like latching on to your arm. It is on your arm, but it hasn't been able to like grab you and sucker itself onto you. That makes it your turn.
Okay. So I haven't really done much combat or any combat yet. So I can still use like skills in combat. I don't have to use fighting maneuvers.
Yeah, that is true. You get to tell me what you want to do. But however, before any of that happens, the sight of this blobby, dead skin, stinking mass coming to life off the ground and making an obvious attack against your opponent, I need both of you to make sanity rolls for me.
I succeeded. Yay.
Well, that's disappointing.
I failed.
Okay, and you may not use luck for sanity, so I need a D4 from you. All right, so Jackson, you lose 3 points of sanity. And so you had the stick in one hand, your shotgun presumably in the other. Okay, so when he comes up and you start doing your dodge and trying to get out of there is a startled scream from you, and you've dropped your shotgun on the ground. You were able to mentally absorb that this big snot creature did its thing, and while it was disturbing, didn't
Wasn't my arm.
make inroads into your psyche.
Right.
What would you like to do?
So I think I might need to do a little convincing here. Okay. So think about magicians. So
You're right. It's going to take some convincing for you to
So-
tell me how sleight of hand is going to get you anywhere.
but magicians do a lot of the quick grab and drop when they do sleight of hand. Like that's a big piece of it, is the scoop up and toss to the side. And I want to try to do that. I want to try to quick toss and toss it out, like sleight of hand.
Yeah. I'm going to say no because we're in
Figure.
combat and you're essentially trying to do a grapple-like combat maneuver. Now, granted, you weren't going to do it for long, but
Yeah.
that's the only way the creature would get its dodge or fight back option. So you would have to do a fighting maneuver that is, you want to grab this thing off of.
I don't want to do that.
You have your switchblade.
Yeah, but I only have a 10 in fighting, and I'm really scared of stabbing him in the arm.
So really your only chances of that happening is if you fumbled the roll, which would be a 96 through 100 on the roll.
All right, well, I will try to use my switchblade to see if I can maybe, like, fillet this thing. Like, I don't want to stab down into his arm. I kind of want to shear off the top.
Slice across it. Okay.
Yeah.
So it is going to attempt to fight back, not dodge you. So it's going to make its fighting grab roll, and you're going to make your thing. So
Okay.
yeah, go ahead and do your attack.
I failed with the switchblade massively. Big time.
Yeah, and it failed with the fighting back. So as Jackson is moving his arms around and you go to slice it, it's just circumstances. The stars didn't align. Your blade and arm didn't even come close enough to it, but you could tell, you could sense, maybe even see that this thing was aware of that attack coming in, and a portion of its body kind of shifted over that way to where, like, it was ready to latch onto the blade if it came.
Gross.
So, anything else you'd like to do? You could do some movement, but essentially you've taken your action in combat.
No, I don't think I have anything else to do.
All right, Jackson, there is this slug of a shapeless mass halfway up your forearm, trying to secure its attachment to you. you're up. What would you like to do?
Is it completely off of the stick now?
No, I would say that it's, you're holding the stick and it's like kind of halfway up your arm, still a little bit of it on the stick.
I'm going to grab the stick with my other hand and try to simultaneously work my hand under the stick, let go of the stick and work my hand under it, and try to flick it with this arm.
All right, so you're going to try to move the stick up and flick it. All right, so we're going to call that a fighting maneuver.
Okay.
So you are the attacker, and you're performing a maneuver. You have the same build or higher, therefore no additional modifiers are applied. You don't get any bonuses, but you also don't get any penalties. Fighting maneuvers really only apply penalties if there's a substantial size difference. So you're going to make a brawl, and it's going to attempt to fight back, not dodge. So you'll make your brawl attack, and it will make its grab attack.
How partial are you to that arm? Just
with a switchblade?
Yeah.
No.
All right. So as you try to jam that thing up there and flick it out, the stick kind of just slides out of it. Like its body kind of folds over, and the stick is now free of it. But it was able to latch onto you, and you'll take 2 points of damage. Which now makes it the goo's turn, and it is going to do fighting against you. This time it is not a maneuver roll. The maneuver was to get to grab. Now it is just doing stuff. So would you like to fight back? Presumably you could smack it with the stick, or attempt to dodge. Okay. So is trying to get on, you're going to be trying to like move your arm in such a way to like flick it off or
Sure.
just disrupt what it is doing. So make your dodge roll.
Fail.
And it succeeded. So you take another 2 points of damage. That makes it your turn.
Okay. I don't know how action economy works here, so I don't know. But what I'd like to do is take my neck scarf and like almost like a garrote, like put it in my hands and like put it at the top of his arm and just come straight down, trying to slide it between the two of them to dislodge it.
Okay. So that's essentially going to be a fighting maneuver. You're going to brawl.
I don't
skill.
Good brawl. I have decent brawl, not great, but I have 25. I could probably try that. So just a straight brawl roll.
Yeah, make it with a bonus dice. I'm gonna say that Jackson is standing right there. If anything, he's probably turned to you with like, help get this damn thing off of me. So it's not like you're having to maneuver in such a way to get to it. So give me
And bonus.
all right, so now that 34, you could buy down to a 25 by spending 9 luck points. You cannot push.
I'll use my luck points to try to dislodge this. I didn't mean this to roll luck. I do that every time.
Every single time.
Every time. I feel like I should be able to edit it without clicking edit mode. That is my bad. I will get better. But I will use the 9 luck points to make that a success.
Okay, and what kind of damage does your
scarf?
So what is your brawl?
Combat. Brawl. 1d3. So
do you have any damage bonus? I don't think it.
I don't. I am small. 1d6, 3, so 2 points of damage.
Okay. So as you pull it down, right, you're able to like pull some of it away from Jackson's skin, and then as you're trying to like ride it down his arm, right, it comes up and off. It slips off, but a little piece of the thing goes flying and splashes into the pond behind you. Jackson, it's your turn.
Where did it land?
The little piece of the thing?
Not the piece of the thing. The
thing is still on your arm.
I took like a slice.
She wasn't. Yeah, she kind of peeled off a piece of it. You did 2 points of damage, to it, but was not able to remove it from your arm.
I'm going to try to scrape it off with a stick.
All right. So do you want to scrape it off, which would be a fighting maneuver, or you could just poke it or hit it with a stick, which would just be a brawl? Which way would you like to do it?
Do fighting maneuvers use your brawl as well?
It does, and it will do the brawl's damage, but also achieve the effect. So
I guess I'll do it that way then.
all right. So you make a brawl attack,
Success!
Yay, finally.
and it's going to do a fight back, which was a failure. So how much damage do you do on a brawl?
Going to combat. Probably 1d3. That's what I do. Yeah, everything else is the same.
Generally speaking, just brawl fists is 1d3. So.
Would you do a d6?
A d6. 1 and 2 is 1, 2, and 3 and 4 is 2, 4,
So
5 and 6, whatever the word.
So you did 3 points of damage. Do you have any damage bonus? So 3 points of damage?
Do I get to check brawl?
Oh,
Good. I need that.
Okay. That hurt it a lot. In fact, you were actually able to do the kind of scrape off, and it fell down onto the ground. Very little life left in it, and it is inching its way back to the pond, to the water. It's its turn in combat, and it's not interested in doing anything but trying to escape now. So it's moving towards the water. What would you like to do?
I don't know. Nothing. I'm waiting to see if Jackson wants to try to intervene with it leaving, because I don't really want to touch it or mess with it. I don't want it back on us.
Okay. Chopping around. Would you like to do anything?
I'm going to reach down and grab my shotgun.
Okay.
Do I still have an action left?
Yeah.
Am I at an angle where she is anywhere?
You guys are up on the bank of this pool, and it is moving down the bank to the pool. So a shot at it would not be in any danger to her, or any scattered shot is going into the water of the pool.
Well, I'm going to pretend it's a rattlesnake in the Texas prairie, and I'm going to take a shot right around what I would think would be the neck area and see if I can't make him cease.
So that's a failure, but for 14 points, you could buy it down to a success.
Nah.
Okay. So for each turn, it is just going to move closer to the water, and it makes it to the water and kind of slides in and floats / sinks down to the bottom until it's substantially hurt, very little life left in it. Who knows if it went to the bottom to die or to strengthen back up. I need you to make a constitution roll. You look down, and the sliminess that was him is touching your skin.
Extreme success.
Yeah. You look down and just flick it off. Don't seem to be worse for wear. So as you're standing here, having been through that, you are facing east, right? Because you were on the west side of this little pool. The creek runs up, the dam, and then there are the woods behind you. If you look at the Roll20 screen, there's a pretty good depiction of the woods. There's a couple of things that you notice. Is that one, there doesn't seem to be any animal noises in this immediate area. And that right around the dam, like maybe 15 or 20 yards into the woods in a semicircle around the dam, that the trees and the plant life appear a little bit different. Right, the bark is splitting and sometimes falling off. What would be branches now look more like vines hanging in kind of ropey ways. And there's where some of the trees you've seen and the bark is split and fallen off, there's like a black pulpy mass underneath there. Some of the roots of these trees seem to be much more, and some of the smaller plants as well, much more exposed than the other trees and plants in the area. And there's There's the smell of rotting flesh and dank earth. So it's kind of missing that sweet smell, but it's like swamp, that really dank earth.
Dank earth.
And rottingness. So everybody give me a spot hidden roll, please.
How come smell is never
A skill.
a skill in any RPGs?
Right. I think when we first did our play test of this game, I think I asked for spot smell roll or spot odor roll. Okay, it ought to be there.
We both failed.
Okay, so that's all you can see from here. The water that is coming down this creek that's been dammed and being slurried off to the Carmody farm as it seeps around the edge of this dam, it seems to be having an effect on the woods right here. And these woods continue on southward until they meet the road and the dig site, and that the dried creek bed runs through these woods and comes out the other side.
Right.
It's not too pleasant to realize you've been drinking shine made from corn that's been watered by all this.
Yeah, that was disgusting, to say the very, very least. So maybe we don't touch things unless we have to, because that was unpleasant, and now my scarf is ruined.
I didn't touch it. The stick touched it.
Then it touched you.
So are you wanting to head on up the mountain, or are you wanting to follow the irrigation?
Let's go on to the hills. It seems pretty apparent the irrigation is headed out to the Carmody place. I think we know what's going to happen there. And when we get there, it might be a decent idea, instead of going to them, drawing them up here to us. Might give us a little advantage depending on what we're trying to do.
That is very dependent on what we're trying to do. Get attacked by oyster monsters, being one of those things.
Oyster monsters. I think that's canon now.
Oyster monsters. Yes, I guess let's head on up and see if we can find this blast site. I really thought that, how many hit points did you go down total? 4? Out of how many?
12.
Yikes. Where's the healing potions?
So, would you like to administer some first aid?
I would, actually. I have some skill in first aid.
I have a little skill in first aid too. What's yours at?
34.
Yeah, yours is a little higher than mine.
What's yours?
31.
Is there like a health action?
Yeah, so first aid's got to be delivered within 1 hour, in which case it grants 1 hit point of recovery. It can be attempted once, and anything further than that would be a push roll. 2 people can work together to administer first aid, which grants a success if either of them rolls a success. So first aid can only be applied once, right? You couldn't apply it and get a point and then have her apply it and get a point. But what you guys could do is work together to apply first aid, and then you'll both roll, and as long as one of you makes a success, it was a successful first aid roll.
Okay, we'll do it.
Yeah.
All right, I failed. Very close. You failed.
Yeah, so
You get nothing.
you could
You lose.
spend 8 points of luck to get it down there, and I think I just read at one point it said subsequent rolls would be considered push rolls.
Mhm.
And then it said 2 people could help each other by rolling at the same time. So I'm going to say those are 2 separate rules, right? So that constituted a single instance.
Right.
You could push your roll. You wouldn't be doing it. Oh, why couldn't both of you push it? I don't know. I'm going to have to think through this. But for right now, I reserve the right to change my ruling
Yes.
on this. If you would like, either one of you would like to push this roll, you get another shot at it. You're going to have to kind of tell me what you're doing. More of all, what you see is kind of rashy abrasions on his skin. A failed attempt risks maybe spreading some of that contact with you
Okay.
of whatever that was might have impacts.
Okay.
Would you like to push the roll?
No, I don't think I would.
Would you like to push the roll? Okay.
What would my penalty be? 'Cause I would
Spreading
be
it further up your arm, like poison ivy.
Yeah, I probably would, but just that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think the impact of yours would be another point of damage.
Nah.
Nah.
In that trying to rub it off or whatever, you irritated it or whatever. I will tell you this. just sleeping overnight will give you 1 point of hit points back. Now, the only thing that will, so if you've lost 4, it'll take 4 nights of sleeping to get a hit point back, unless somebody successfully applies a medicine skill to you, in which case some more could be gotten that way.
That won't be one of us.
No,
You guys should consider, getting a doctor to join your party.
we should.
So, all right. So you guys try to clean off his arm as much as possible. Maybe you take in an article of clothing and kind of wrapped it around, cleaned it off. It's been covered and taken care of, but it didn't have any physical effect on you. So now you guys would like to go northward along the creek. Is that correct?
Yes.
Heading towards the blast site.
So you start walking up along the bed of the creek, and you can tell that before you get to the hills, you probably got about a mile walk, probably about 20 minutes. What kind of shoes are you wearing?
Ladies' boots, which have a small kind of kitten heel.
Okay. Yeah, you knew you were coming out in a dig site. You wouldn't have worn crazy woman about town type of shoes.
Think granny
You would have been
boots.
sensible with your archaeological training. Sure. So, yeah, I think the average person can walk 3 to 4 miles per hour. 3 miles an hour is 20 minutes. There's probably some places where you'd have to scurry over a fallen tree or whatever. So I'm going to say it probably takes more like 25 or 30 minutes for you to go the mile. So as you're walking along and you see the hills start to rise up, you look up and kind of obscured, you believe you see an opening in the side of the hill. And what you do notice is as you get closer, and I think, give me spotted girls.
I failed.
Same.
We wasted all of our room.
So you're not certain, but you can see the partially obscured opening that you think might be a cave. It could just be dark shadows up there, but you do know that as you're following this creek, that if the creek keeps going the way it was going, that may well be the source of it. So what you do know is that all of the plant life now, as you're getting really close, has grown unnaturally large. Like wildflowers that have grown to the size of like manhole covers and that are dripping viscous black liquid instead of pollen.
Watch out, man. She might get her boots dirty.
There are berries and seed pods the size of footballs that are lay split and rotting on the ground, and they're tacky innards seething with large deformed worms and insects. I mean, like earthworms the size of small snakes. And all of the plant life is exhibiting unnaturally vibrant colors like tropical orchids or blue-black livid bruises. And there's that stench of sweet corruption everywhere around here. Huge freaking plants. Everything that is close enough to be affected by this dark water coming out is just grown massive and eerie looking. Need sanity rolls from both of you. Observe what could not possibly be true.
We both failed.
I need 1d4 of sanity loss from both of you. As you get closer in, and first it was just bigger stuff, and then as you get in, you start to see all of this stuff naturally, and without thinking about it, you two kind of inch closer together, and when you see one of the seed pods on the ground that kind of splits open from just the pressure inside as you're walking by, then the black ooze rolls out, and the bugs and huge insects are in there. You can't help but you both reach out and grab each other's hand John takes 4 points of sanity loss, and you take 3 points of sanity loss. Now, neither of you have hit the 5-point threshold that would cause temporary insanity.
That's in one roll, right?
Mm-hmm. But indefinite insanity is when you've lost a fifth of your starting sanity. So how are we at there?
Mine's 12.
Yeah.
So you can lose 12 before you've hit the 1/5 marker. And so you're still good there?
Mine's also 12, but only lost 6.
Okay.
I think I've lost 7 since we started. Let me check back up. I thought I lost 2 with Homie. I lost 4 on this one. I thought I'd lost another one, but it doesn't look like it. I guess I started lower.
I think you took a point of sanity loss when we were fighting the big hog.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah. So when you have a time to stop, rest, and gather yourself, then you restart the calculator on the 1/5. So it's 1/5 of what you started with, like that day.
Right.
So if you lost 3 2 days ago and then 5 today, it would reset to the new sanity start point of -3. All right, so you can see now water pouring out from the mouth of the cave, which is set in a cliff some 20 feet above the ground where you were at. There's rubble all around the cave mouth, making it possible to clamber up, but this is made very difficult by the running water and the moss that has grown over all the stones. The moss, you can see, is squirming under the moss would squirm. There's movement in the moss. Birds. Here's what you know looking at it. Climbing these rocks and this moss covered and the plants around here is going to inevitably result in you getting wet.
Which we don't want.
What are the other alternatives here?
And go back the way you
Can I give you an
came.
idea roll?
Give me a spot hidden.
Hard success.
So as you're looking up at this, you notice just under the entrance, probably only like 10 feet up this thing, there is slightly overgrown with some of these larger plants, a box, and on the side of the box you can read Dynam, and then it's obscure, but you believe you just saw a box of dynamite, presumably the dynamite that Rhodes used to open the cave that good old Ezekiel Cade used dynamite to close many years ago. You can also see that there's a little bit of water dripping onto the box of dynamite. So yeah, your rank climb rolls to scamper up the cliff. Chance that you're going to get wet, whatever that would entail. Check out the cave.
Does it look like it would be easier to get down to the cave from on top?
No. I guess just no. I think you would be as constrained by the vegetation trying to get up there. And you're talking about going way out of your way and up around. But
kind of what I was talking about.
No, actually, it looks like it'd be more difficult. So, what will y'all do?
No.
It's not much of an investigation if you don't go to the source.
I'm not really wanting to get the water on me. I don't know if the water's up here is safe or if it's just not safe down there. And I don't really want to find out through trial and error.
Well, you just stay here, little lady. I'll climb up there and see what we can see and maybe throw you a rope down and you can meet me up there.
I don't recommend that in the slightest. I think we should go back down and come back when we have a game plan of how to get in there safely.
I mean, what else would our game plan entail?
I don't know.
We're going to bring a ladder?
I don't know. I just know that water is not to be messed with. It's not normal stuff. And I mean,
well, I bet if Preacher Sproston was here, he'd remind us that tomorrow is not promised today. So I think today we should go on up there. Or at least I should.
You're your own man, Jackson. But I don't recommend it. I think it's a bad idea.
Well, I love myself a bad idea. Climb roll?
So you get up to the edge there and you put your hand on the first rock hold with the mossy growth all around there, and then as you start to pull up and find a place to put your foot to make your climb. So give me a con roll.
Hard success.
So you feel the moisture, almost like if you push down on a really wet carpet, if you push down, like you could see the pool of water and that. When you reach up there, you feel that much moisture in all of it, and for a second there you feel like that water was different, was going to do something to you, but you shrug it off and go to climb up. And so I need you to next week make me a climb roll. We'll stop there for the night. Thank everybody for joining us. Hey, if you like what you see either here on Twitch or a couple days from now on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, throw something down in the comments. Tell us what you like, what you don't like. We'll read them all. Thanks a lot for joining us. You guys want to say goodbye or say anything else to somebody?
Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Percentile Vice. Always posting over there and retweeting cool content and just funny stuff and having a good time.
You can't play a cowboy without taking some risks.
Good night.
It's true. Next week, we'll see what's up in that cave.